when you suggested that, in a video, by the way, that police withheld the truth about the person alleged to be behind this tragedy.
Well, how interesting you say that.
That we don't compromise someone's fair trial.
So this is really interesting.
And allow the families of those who have suffered to hear the truth.
Yeah, and we hide behind this again and again and again.
Why are you saying hide behind?
I'll tell you why. Lord Carlisle, Liberal Democrat peer, but a very senior legal man, along with Jonathan Hall KC, who is the government's terrorism czar.
Ever seen a politician leave a TV host speechless? Nigel Farage just did. In a jaw-dropping moment, Farage confronted Ed Balls and Susanna Reid with accusations that rocked the studio. But what exactly did Farage say that silenced these seasoned presenters? And more importantly, why does it matter to you and your future? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. As Nigel Farage strode into the studio, the atmosphere crackled with tension. Ed Balls and Susanna Reid, seasoned presenters known for their tough interviews, braced themselves for what promised to be a fiery exchange.
Deserve to know the truth, and both Lord Carlisle and...
The truth was that the suspect was not under surveillance. The truth was that the suspect had...
Do you know that?
Well, you don't know.
That there was truth behind the idea that this was in fact a migrant who'd done this, and it was untrue.
I was saying, tell the truth, give the public information, and the problem will die down.
Like some
Neither of
pundit on some TV show. You're a member of Parliament.
Neither of you
have to behave in a responsible way. If you give the impression to people that what's being hidden...
The topic at hand, government transparency and accountability, a subject that's been a thorn in the side of British politics for years. Farage wasted no time in launching his offensive. He accused the government of deliberately concealing crucial information from the public, a claim that sent shockwaves through the studio. But Farage wasn't just spouting baseless allegations. He had a heavyweight in his corner, Lord Carlisle, a respected figure in British politics. This support lent credibility to Farage's accusations, making them impossible to dismiss out of hand. Balls and Reid, however, weren't about to let Farage's claims go unchallenged. They pushed back hard, warning that such inflammatory statements could spark public unrest. It was a classic clash between the need for transparency and the imperative of maintaining societal stability. The host argued that some information, if released prematurely or without context, could do more harm than good. But Farage was having none of it. He stood his ground, insisting that the public had a right to know what was really going on behind closed doors. The debate reached a fever pitch, as neither side showed any sign of backing down. Farage accused government agencies and police of hiding behind legal technicalities, while Balls and Reid cautioned against the dangers of speculation and misinformation. As the tension in the studio reached boiling point, Farage delivered his coup de grace. He argued passionately that honesty is the very foundation of democracy. In his view, suppressing information only breeds mistrust and deepens the divide between the government and the people it's meant to serve. It was a powerful moment that left even his critics pondering the implications. This confrontation wasn't just about one politician taking on the media establishment.
If talk of reform and myself is dominating, I'm not there. Look, they are desperately looking for someone to blame for the massive election loss they've just been through. So let's go for Nigel Farage.
They wanted to blame you, or do they want to jump into bed with you? I thought Mr. Jenrick is kind of keen for you, to cuddle up.
Well, he's less rude about me than the other three. I mean, that is true. No, there will be no deal with them. I wouldn't trust them anyway.
Are you proud of Brexit? Do you feel like it's been an unalloyed success?
Do I think getting back our independence was the right thing to do? You bet your life. Do I think we've handled it well? Good Lord, no.
It raised fundamental questions about the nature of British democracy. How much should the public know? Where do we draw the line between transparency and national security? And who gets to make these decisions? As the dust settles on this explosive encounter, one thing is clear. The battle for government accountability is far from over. Farage's performance has ignited a fresh debate about the role of political outsiders in challenging the status quo. Love him or hate him, there's no denying that Nigel Farage has once again thrust himself into the centre of British political discourse. From the polished TV studio to the gritty reality of Britain's farmlands, Farage's next move caught everyone off guard. It's a political gambit that could either cement his status as a populist hero or expose him as an opportunistic charlatan. The stakes, nothing less than the future of rural Britain. Nigel Farage, once again, finds himself at the centre of a political storm. This time, he's thrown his weight behind farmers protesting Labour's proposed inheritance tax reforms. It's a move that's raised eyebrows and temperatures in equal measure.
Part of our independence are we exploiting to our best advantage?
The point about independence is we're in charge. So we can get things right, we can get things wrong.
Do you think as a regular voter, you feel that the AUKUS deal has affected your daily life?
If I lived in Barrow-in-Furness and I was working in the submarines, yes, I would, absolutely.
Okay.
Probably more annoyed with the way Brexit's been delivered than anybody, because so many of the things that we could have done, we simply haven't. And the big one is people voted Brexit above all because they did not like the rate of the population explosion.
Farage, ever the political outsider, has managed to tap into a deep well of rural frustration. These farmers see their way of life under threat, their family businesses hanging in the balance. And Farage, he's more than happy to be their champion. But not everyone's buying what Farage is selling. Critics accuse him of reckless rabble-rousing, arguing that his inflammatory rhetoric could incite unrest. They point to his controversial claims about government transparency and public safety as evidence of a dangerous populist streak. It's a fine line between giving voice to the voiceless and fanning the flames of discontent. Farage isn't just taking aim at Labour's policies, he's going after their leadership, guns blazing. Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner are in his crosshairs, accused of dodging accountability and turning a blind eye to the economic struggles of rural Britain. It's vintage Farage, unfiltered, uncompromising, and unafraid to ruffle feathers. This latest crusade has thrust Farage back into the spotlight, his influence growing despite, or perhaps because of, his outsider status. His presence at the farmers' rally wasn't just a show of solidarity, it was a political statement. Farage is positioning himself as the champion of the underrepresented, drawing parallels to populist movements across the pond. But what's Farage's endgame? His criticisms of Labour policies hint at a broader vision for political reform in the UK. He's tapping into a vein of disillusionment that runs deep, resonating with voters who feel left behind by the political establishment. It's a potent message, one that's gaining traction as Britain grapples with growing challenges. In a moment of raw emotion, Farage declared his love for a declining Britain, calling for change. It's a paradoxical stance, a patriot's affection mixed with a reformer's zeal. This passionate plea for a nation in need of renewal sets the stage for a final showdown. As Farage squares off against his critics, the question remains, is he the people's champion Britain needs, or a reckless rabble-rouser the country can ill afford? As the dust settled on Farage's explosive appearance, the studio fell silent. His impassioned plea for transparency and change had left even his harshest critics momentarily speechless. This wasn't just another political spat, it was a defining moment in British democracy. Farage's confrontation with the establishment exposed deep fissures in the UK's political landscape. His ability to articulate the frustrations of disillusioned voters has forced both the media and politicians to confront uncomfortable truths. The clash highlighted a growing divide between those who demand radical change and those who caution against rocking the boat. But what does this mean for the future of political opposition in Britain? As trust in traditional parties wanes, will figures like Farage become the new voice of dissent? Or will their controversial tactics ultimately undermine the very democracy they claim to champion? The answers to these questions will shape the UK's political discourse for years to come.